pleased to present Austin Faith Dialogue, brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries. In the weeks ahead, you will see these and other programs by various denominations. Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program at the crossroads of religion and life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interaction between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTVC. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue. It was at the first of this year that a team of architects and urban designers visited this capital city for the purpose of making recommendations on how to revitalize the downtown area. In summarizing their findings, they made the observation that Austin has a good downtown area, but it could have a great one. Hello, I'm Richard Thompson, your host for this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue, pastor at Central Presbyterian Church. And it's with a special privilege that we today take note of the fact that every community needs to have a vision of itself. And we have this sense of need particularly now as we recognize that this Austin area has its strengths and weaknesses at its very core. Our guests to help us reflect upon this are persons particularly well positioned to give us their insights. Lewis Wright, Assistant Vice President for Administration for the University of Texas, and the chair of the Implementation Committee, which is charged with following up on the recommendations. We have architect John Niefler, who headed up the arrangements for that team's visit. And also with us today, we have Thais Austin of the Chamber of Commerce. And to each of you, we bid you welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we would like to have you help us do a little visioning today for our city. And when we talk about the downtown area, maybe we ought to start with that, John, since you work with the team, just exactly what was meant by downtown Austin. And we'll have a little, I think, a design to give us some help in that regard.
Well, of course, downtown Austin can be understood in a lot of different ways. And I think we in Austin do see downtown in a number of different ways. It can be considered to be the heart of the city. It can indeed be seen as the heart of the state. And I think many of us here in Austin consider that to be what our downtown is. For the purposes of the study, however, we began with the sense that downtown can be defined as that area between Town Lake and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and I-35 and Lamar Boulevard. However, as we got into a study of downtown, any fair understanding of what downtown Austin is has to erase a good deal of those boundaries.
Okay.
And see downtown as a collection of the total community.
Let's see if we can have a look at the drawing that was used by this urban design team with obviously the river giving definition to it. And Lewis, would you like to add to what John has said as far as how that was perceived?
Yes, I would. Early on during the advanced visits by members of the team, we observed that IH-35 is both a physical boundary and to some degree a sociological boundary in Austin, and that if we were to develop a vision for downtown Austin, we needed to take into account how that particular boundary might be breached, so that the East Austin communities would feel included in our vision for downtown Austin, both economically and involved in the economic and social activities that we believe a revitalized downtown would produce.
So the I-35 boundary is one that is a particular challenge, it sounds like.
A particular challenge to the team. I believe the team saw it as such. And in their recommendations, they challenged the implementation team to find ways to breach that barrier.
Right. Now, Thais, from the standpoint of the Chamber of Commerce, your mandate is not just the center of the city, but the whole of the city.
Certainly.
But do you have a perception of what constitutes the downtown particularly?
Do I have a perception of what constitutes the downtown? Well, I think a lot of it is the image that people in Austin and people in the state of Texas have of the city of Austin when they think about it, and that would be when you imagine Austin, you think about Town Lake, the skyline of downtown, the Capitol, and the UT Tower, and that is very much the image that people have in their mind of the city, and what people need to think about when they think about Austin. Also, I'd like to borrow something that one of our downtown commissioners said, is that Austin's downtown is everybody's neighborhood. It's not just one neighborhood.
Okay, well now, wouldn't this be true of any other city, though? I mean, the downtown belongs to everybody.
I think very much so. And
well, what about
but the one
Austin
thing about
that makes it
Austin is that it is the capital of Texas,
right.
and it's very important that the capital of Texas represent the state in a manner that we can all be proud of.
Okay. And this kind of goes back, I think, John, to your original statement that the Texans have a kind of pride about Austin. I know one of these members from the RUDAT team, as it was called, the Regional
Urban Development Assessment Team.
Okay, well, the visiting team came from as far west as San Francisco, as far east as Boston, and they said there are lots of states that don't have the same feeling for their capital that Texans do.
That's true. That's true, and one of the truths about us in Texas is that we all have our original hometown, and our second hometown is always Austin. There are a lot of people in the state who would like very much to live here and think of it in that way, in the kind of a hometown way. And that's what makes the downtown Austin important, not only for us who live here, but we here have a kind of a trust to the rest of the state to see to it that it remains alive and vital and the true heart of the state.
Okay. Let's think about what the vision of the heart of the state means as far as the downtown is concerned. It's clear about the state capitol and the university and the health and the viability of those parts of the core of our community. But when it comes to the part from the state capitol to the river, there is, I think that's where we perceive the need as being the greatest, to try to catch a vision of just what could this be like by the turn of the century. Have you been doing some dreaming along this line, Louis?
Well, yes, I have, and I believe we go back to the fact that the downtown should be the economic and social center of the city. Thais spoke previously about an additional obligation on the part of the citizens of Austin as trustees, if you will, of the capital city of the state. And so there are two reasons why the downtown should be this economic and social heart. The fact that the university is located here in the capital city, the state capital, when we put that together with the marvelous physical setting of this city on the banks of the Colorado River in the hill country, Waller and Shoal Creek, and with its tremendous natural and built assets, that this vision of Austin as the capital city of the state should be realized. And I believe it is the conclusion of the team, and I think most of us here in Austin would share that conclusion, that the city does not now represent what it should represent as the capital of the state and as everybody's neighborhood.
I mean, Thais is tied in with the Chamber of Commerce and the economic side of this. I mean, is there some feeling of need in terms of how many empty places there are downtown, and for being at the heart of it all? It seems to be rather empty in so many ways.
Well, what the team said when they were here was it looked like someone had taken a vacuum and sanitized the place, that there was no there there. I think it's also important for people in Austin to realize that downtown contributes 12% to the tax base of the city, and that by enhancing that tax base, everybody in the city benefits. So the vitality, not just from the fact that downtown is the image of Austin, that vitality will spread to the rest of Austin, but just from the fact that the financial health of the downtown is something that can also spread to the rest of Austin.
Everybody would benefit from a stronger downtown.
I'd also like to point out something else that we were talking about earlier. I think the activities on Inauguration Day were an example of the kind of excitement that can be created downtown. We were very lucky to have the team visit us just 2 days after Inauguration Day. The banners were still up, so there was still that sense of excitement about downtown. There was even a demonstration, I believe, the weekend that they were here. So there were people coming down, and so they were able to get some sort of idea of how it could be a central point, a social point.
Well, I would like to just reaffirm with you as a pastor of a downtown church that you have a feeling of the potential that's here. There are many downtown areas of many cities you go to that you feel that the circumstances aren't really in place to give it a shot of energy and new development. But I get a little bit of a feeling that there's an excitement about this that goes beyond when there was previously, you know, plans drawn up about how things could be improved and the kind of collected dust on the shelf sort of thing. There's something different about this, and I don't mean just to be a cheerleader for it, but am I being overly sanguine about it?
Well, I'd like to address that actually, because my phone has been the phone number that's been handed out since I helped coordinate the trip, and it's been ringing off the wall at the Chamber of Commerce with a great diversity of people, everyone from the minority community to the business community to environmental and neighborhood groups. And one thing I've discovered in this whole process is Austinites disagree about a lot. But one thing we do agree on is that we all love our downtown, and I think that there's some opportunities for people to be creative and to get some consensus on some real solutions for the area because we do love it so much.
And how much is the convention center and the remodeling of the Capitol incentive for some move forward this time?
I think the effort that that came out of the RUDAT team being here clearly showed that the city has made a significant commitment to its downtown in $70 million investment in a new convention center. We were encouraged by the RUDAT team to make absolutely sure that over the next 18 months that the convention center will indeed be a success, as it can be. We were also strongly encouraged by the team to find those ways that the entire community can participate in this revitalization and this new growth downtown. And in some ways we were told that unless we find some ways to involve and make viable players of the Hispanic community and the African American community, that all these efforts toward revitalization are likely to fall short. The team, who are urban planning specialists, were pretty quick to point out that we in Austin have done a good deal of planning. We have done, and they were very complimentary. We've done good plans, we've done good studies, they are well-founded, the projects are exciting that have been proposed, and we frankly were encouraged by them to let that piece of work be done and get on with doing some of these programs and plans.
Don't need any more study.
We don't need any more studies, and that's why we think of this RUDAT effort as not just another study, but as a framework for action that will allow this to go forward.
And how would we pay for it, Louis? You're head of this implementation team. Can you pull rabbits out of the hat in that regard?
Well, that's always a very important question and kind of the bottom line when we contemplate embarking upon an action plan of the sort that we have in mind. I would refer back to an observation made by the RUDAT team, and we did have a specialist on the team who is an economist, who, after studying the situation, said that Austin's economic and fiscal condition compared to national standards is really quite good.
For all of the problems that we seem to have, it's not, relatively speaking, that bad.
That's right. And while we have not, at this point in our implementation program, we do have a finance committee that has been established to begin to examine from among the number of possible ways of financing the projects once they are defined, to begin to look at that. But at the moment, I would just say that we would rely on, excuse me, that finding that their tax increment financing, special assessment districts, management districts, and any number of means for financing the kinds of projects that we expect to propose, that the City of Austin, it's feasible for the City of Austin to consider and select from amongst these possibilities.
They've not been brought into play as yet.
Yes.
I think it'd be helpful to take a look at a second one of these drawings that were used by the team, and I think this particular one, John, you can give us a little comment on.
What we're looking at now is an illustration of Austin in terms of the flow of people and the traffic that ties the city together. The fact is that we do have links between the Central Business District Congress at 6, if we look at the as the target, and links to East Austin. I-35 is the major north-south corridor, the town lake as the southern boundary of that, and this assists us in defining the kind of organization that we already have in place. This is the blank that we have to work with. And the design team was working within this framework.
Well, now, what, in terms of a vision, just going back to that, how would this be differing if we were to look at this like 10, 15 years from now? What direction would we be going that would help give embodiment to the vision that the RUDAT team pointed us toward?
Well, I think that's left to us who are here. The experts have gone home, and they have given us their strong recommendations. And it's up to us to make of their recommendations what we will. One of the truths about cities is that we are always becoming what we shall be. And there is no static point, and there is no end. Whether you and I are still here, Austin will continue to be here, and it will always be in the process of becoming what it's going to become. And that's the challenge to all of us who are here. We've been asked and challenged by our visitors who are expert in urban planning for us in Austin to find a way for us to reach concurrence on what the vision of Austin is.
A consensus. In the midst of, I think, you were saying earlier that there was a lot of diversity in Austin, much in the way of neighborhoods versus developers and all this kind of thing. But what they're calling for is to get our act together as far as what's the direction we want the downtown to go in. You sense that a movement in that regard?
Oh, definitely. One of the great things about the RUDAT program itself is that it stresses two things, and one is inclusion. Well, actually three things: inclusion, investment, which is investment of time, investment in a project by the community, and implementation. And they stress that without getting everyone, regardless of where they come from, involved in the process, that the process won't work. Without getting people actually invested through their time and participation or money or services or somehow, you are not going to have a plan that the community can buy. So throughout the process, what we've done for the past year is we've done an enormous amount of outreach, talking to different groups, everything from Metropolitan Ministries to the Downtown Rotary Club, letting people know about the program, letting them know that they can get involved. If someone calls the office, they get involved with the program.
Okay, and I'd like to come back to this community cooperation including the role of the religious community in that, I would like to, just so that our viewers realize that we're not talking in abstractions here when we discuss a vision. I remember in reading the report, and I guess there are copies of this report that can be had by interested parties.
Yes.
Is it through the chamber?
Through the chamber, and also the city of Austin has some copies, so
Okay.
if they call either place, they can get a copy.
But the copy that I looked at showed the historic trolley, the restoration of the historic trolley as a concrete, rather practical way of tying together everything from the university area down to the river and on the lateral streets. Now that was a specific recommendation, wasn't it? Or at least an idea to pursue.
It was identified among the many projects that previous studies have identified, and I suppose we could say it's one on the menu of projects that the implementation team will be looking at and evaluating and trying to make a determination of which of those projects should be pursued by the city. I would say that there are two main tasks with respect to transportation, and the first is really driven in some sense by the convention center project. As John mentioned earlier, the city has invested $70 million or so in the convention center. It's on a timetable scheduled to open in July of 1992. We must consider, among other things, how the many conventioneers who will come to the city will be moved about the city. Not only just from their hotel to the convention, but to entertainment spots, to what there is to see in Austin, the major feature, of course, being the Capitol. Visitors Austin would want to see the Capitol. So we need to look at, and we are in the process now, of looking at the convention center planning, reviewing it, and one of the major aspects of that review will be to look at the traffic circulation system to see to what extent it serves the needs of convention visitors. But beyond that, for example, the team indicated that the city should be for people, that the streets in downtown should be for people and not for cars. That factors into our consideration one-way streets and the pattern of one-way pairs. Does that contribute to a downtown and to a downtown that is for people and not for cars?
Yeah.
So there are a number of factors that will have to be taken into account with respect to a downtown transportation circulation system.
Yeah.
I'd like to add something too. They made the comment that downtown should be a destination, not a way to get from one end of the city to the other. And I think, and another thing is, and a lot of what you were addressing with the transportation goes into a theme throughout the whole report, is that they want us to clean up our linkages. And transportation is one way to clean up a linkage, for instance, between the convention center and the Capitol and some other ways, between East Austin and downtown. Our evaluator said, who came here last May to see if we could earn the right to have the study done, said you can't have a clean appearance with a dirty collar, and Austin's downtown has a dirty collar. And so that's something that was addressed throughout the report.
I think we need to also do justice to our last visual here, John, that kind of gives a little bit of a summary to our discussion. Can you comment on this?
Well, it does, and it's appropriate that this would follow the conversation about the traffic system, because this one includes the layout that has been proposed by Capital Metro for the routing, the proposed routing for the trolley system that may be brought forward, that will be considered by Capital Metro. And that is the kind of linkage that would tie the University of Texas campus, the state office campus, the downtown, and then cross 6th Street and into East Austin. So this one is one of those very important illustrations of what makes Austin go and what ties us together from a transportation standpoint.
It's interesting to me that what ties us together raises the whole root word of religion, religio, meaning to bind together, and the extent to which the religious community has as its commonality to pull a community together in various ways. What just in the brief time that we have would be your thoughts as to how faith community could contribute to this process of creating a vision and then implementing it. Louis, would you like to give us your thought?
Well, the team observed that downtown employers are one of the more or less sole attractions that bring people downtown, and at the end of the workday, everyone leaves the downtown area going to their various neighborhoods because there's not any reason to remain downtown. But I would observe that the downtown churches are another magnet, if you will, that bring people downtown. We believe that the churches also can help us with another issue that was highlighted in the report, and that's the issue of homeless and transient persons, as well as helping include, or to again break that barrier, reach out to churches east of IH-35 and have those churches reach out to churches downtown. Prior to our program started, we were discussing religious festivals, and that might be a mechanism that could be used. And churches historically have been kind of the center of neighborhoods. And if the downtown is to be for Austin, everyone's neighborhood, then the pattern of downtown churches have a very important role.
Okay. Either of you have a addition to make to that?
I think that the downtown congregations certainly have a built-in constituency that's already made a significant commitment to downtown. I dare say that all of the congregations in one way or another have come to terms with the question, shall we move to the suburbs or not? And the downtown congregations have said, we cast our lot with downtown, and we are staying. And so we feel that strong sympathy with that group.
All right. Yes, do you have any other thoughts?
I would say only that the East Austin neighborhood churches would play a very important role in our being able to successfully implement the recommendations, because they are indeed the centers of their communities and communicate with the people out there.
All right. Well, you have communicated with our people out here today who are viewing this program, and on behalf of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, I want to thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you folks for looking in with us as well. Remembering that the Hebrew Scriptures said that without a vision, the people perish. And I think implicitly with a vision, we can prosper and flourish in this community. And I would affirm that for us today. On behalf of AMM, I'm Richard Thompson, thanking you for watching. Be with us again, and peace be with you. Information, call Austin Metropolitan Ministries at 472-7627.